Okay, so to start us off, do you mind sharing a little bit about your clinical expertise and training? What kind of work do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I've been practiced for like 5 years roughly, and I've been licensed for three. Um, I went to school at Alliant International University. So what happens after undergrad? Generally you have to do like a GRE. I'm not good at taking tests. I didn't want to do a GRE or even take a year to study for it. I wanted to just go straight into grad school. So I found Alliant, which is more of a private school. So I kind of went that route.
Hmm. How does that compare to some of the other mental health professionals out there?
It's all just the same schooling for the most part. Some programs have difference in is like maybe what they specialize in or what they kind of what's the word
Hmm.
like really kind of showcase. Maybe they have different not modalities but different theories or techniques they like to emphasize on. Like maybe they that's like my school is very big on multiculturalism and like having that discussion about it, and they pride themselves in having a lot of like they had a lot of different schools in different countries and had a lot of like cultural exchanges all the time.
Some people may not be familiar with the title that you have. And when you hear, oh, licensed marriage and family therapist, just what kind of populations do you usually work with? Because, like, from just the title itself, it's easy to assume, oh, I only work with like couples or like
Yeah,
families.
that like I think that's the weird part. Like it's for marriage and family therapy. That's the idea. Like I have a master's in
Hmm.
marriage and family, but my population I work with specifically is trauma,
Hmm.
sex therapy, and within sex therapy like kink and alternative lifestyles. And I also work with people struggling with identity, like
Mm.
cultural identity, personal identity, sexual identity, and rejection and shame is a really big thing that I work with.
Hmm.
So I'm very niche. I'm very specific. In the beginning, I was pretty broad, but over time, I started to kind of define like what the population I want to work with that resonates with me, that I want to help. And that tends to be like I've narrowed myself down a bit.
Hmm. And if you don't mind sharing a little bit, then
Yeah.
what inspired you to do that? Or how did you go from a broader focus to choosing that kind of more niche area and the population that you want to work with?
Well, in the therapy world, you don't want to be the jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing.
Hmm.
You want to be very specific. You want to niche down because if you're looking, let's say you're struggling with a specific problem, like someone
Hmm.
who has maybe has bipolar.
Hmm.
You want someone who specializes in bipolar. If you find two therapists, one says, "Oh, I specialize in bipolar mostly," and other thing, and this person's like, "Well, I can do bipolar. I have experience in it," but they have like all the other things they have to do. I would lean more towards the specialty.
Hmm.
I would say that they know more about it. They worked with a lot of clients, so then it's an expectation that they could probably understand me better. It's like the fact the more specific a therapist is, I think it's better sometimes. It's better because now I know exactly what like they work with, and if I have that exact problem, I can go to them for that.
Hmm.
What we learn over time as we're in the field, you learn is your niche is basically like the client, if your ideal client. Who would be my ideal client? For me, I thought it was bipolar because I
Hmm.
was diagnosed as bipolar for 20 like age 24. For the longest time I thought I was bipolar. I
Hmm.
wasn't. I was just ADHD. Yeah, and then I like, for example, I like working with kids. I just don't like working with parents.
Hmm.
Didn't want to do that. So like over, you have to get a certain amount of hours as you finish up school, depending if you're going to be licensed social worker or a therapist or any of the other
Hmm.
things. You have like certain requirements. You have to get certain hours in certain fields, in certain certain areas. So they kind of want you to kind
Hmm.
of train a little broadly, and then from there you kind of figure out where you want to go.
Got it.
Yeah,
That
so
makes
I
so
worked
much
with
sense.
kids for like for here. I worked in rehab. I worked in a lot of different places, and I tried different populations. Even in the beginning of my career, I was pretty broad. I was like, oh, anxiety, depression, and
Hmm.
like bipolar. I was really broad in my definition. But as the years went along, I started to figure out what is it that I really want to help people in, and what is it that I feel like I can really I can connect with. Who is my ideal client? And it tends to be in what I explained to you earlier. That is my niche. My niche is my ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you're doing engineering, and then there's not just, you just don't do engineering. You start to kind of niche down on what type of engineering that you type into,
Mm-hmm.
like account engineer, even accounting. There's always like, there's a broad category, and as you go further along, you have to like define specifically what is it that you're interested in, or
Mm-hmm.
where you want to go with it.
Because of the more niche focus, I have a feeling that a lot of our community may not be very familiar with the work that you do or the modalities that you use or
Absolutely,
what
yeah.
therapy it is. Like, what does it entail? Do you mind sharing that with us?
Therapy, I guess my style, anyways, I would phrase it as a metaphorical narrative style. I use metaphors and narratives to help people work through what is it that they're struggling with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the easiest way to explain it. And every therapist has their own style. I'm very candid, I'm direct, I'll call it as I sees it, because my job is to make you uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple as that. My job is to make you uncomfortable and to push you. I want you to feel safe in when you're talking with me. I want you to feel like you're talking to a friend, but I'm gonna call you out on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was I allowed to curse? I didn't.
It's fine.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, and I think that's what a therapist is supposed to do. We look from outside the box. When you're dealing with something, you're stuck. All
Mm-hmm.
you see is four walls because you're in like a rut or a hole. I'm on the outside. That's why it's easier like helping other people's problem than your own.
Yeah. It's
Same thing.
kind of like if you're in the loop yourself and you just can't see any way out, and then you need someone to kind of be like, hey, have you considered this?
Absolutely. It's not just like that, but we are creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
Humans like being comfortable. It's a human nature to be comfortable. Who doesn't like being comfortable? But the problem is that comfort can inhibit us because it can
Mm-hmm.
stop us from growing. A quote. I like making quotes. I like quoting and like making quotes. And one of my original quotes is, just like how courage doesn't exist without fear, growth does
Mm-hmm.
not exist without discomfort. You cannot grow unless you're uncomfortable. That's how you grow through anything.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an example or even like an imaginary example that you don't mind sharing with us how a typical session would go? Maybe not like an intake section, but like a later on session.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For someone who's seen me a while, it first starts with like we both signing on, either it be in person or online.
Hmm.
We kind of see it. And my first question would be like, what's on the menu for today? Because I like those lame, cheesy puns. And we just, neither the client will start telling me like what's going on, or I start to inquire. Generally in the beginning,
Hmm.
it is a back and forth. Like sometimes they lead, sometimes I lead. Really depends on where they're at. If a client comes to me for something very specific, then we just kind of jump into it. But if I know there is things to explore from the other sessions or other aspects, then I'll take the lead. I want it to be a conversation, and I don't
Hmm.
want the client just telling me their feeling and me just going, "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry." I'm more like, "Well, that sucks. What about this though?"
Hmm.
Yeah, and there's always ends up like with homework. I try to give homework when I think it's most appropriate,
Hmm.
or it's something, and it's never expected to do. It's more if you want to continue to challenge it or something to think about, you can do it. But if you don't, I'm not like, hey, you get an F on your report card sort of thing, or like you lose points. There's none of that. It's it's about, for me, to autonomy. You are in complete control of the session. You came here for a reason. I work for you, so
Hmm.
it's what you want to do with it.
Got it. Have you encountered any challenges in the process, in terms of, just getting to the point that you are today, throughout the years that you've practiced, that you've worked with your clients, or even just like getting your clients to open up a little bit, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it really depends on the issue they're working with. Generally with intake, we do like a 15-minute like conversation to see like if we're a good fit or not. And that's
Hmm.
hard to determine if you would want to work with someone in 15 minutes. But it's kind of like like I tell clients, don't be afraid to therapist shop. You got to find someone who you vibe with. You got to feel like someone you like. Why would you listen to me if you don't like me or believe I could help you, sort of thing?
Hmm.
So it's great to ask questions. And if clients are struggling, I don't mind. Some clients, I've taken the lead completely because they're not good with like expressing themselves or explaining their emotions. We have a rule. We shouldn't work harder than our clients. And that is
Mm.
true. Like I shouldn't pour more work into something that you want help in. But sometimes clients are having difficulty. And a lot of times I don't mind picking up that slack if I can tell they're just genuinely having a hard time with just, this process, which might be really new for them, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
identifying their feelings or even talking about stuff. Because, within the stereotype in our culture, we don't really have that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't just be like, hey, how are you feeling? Or like, what are you thinking about? Or like, what emotion is that? If you're never taught that, how are you going to be able to identify it? Sometimes when we
Mm-hmm.
look at something, it's way too personal and we have a hard time looking at it because it hurts. But if it's a metaphor or we visualize it, like watching a movie or something, we can see the person struggling with it or going through it and we can connect with them because it's a way for us to kind of understand it without having to go through the pain of it in our own way.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what continues, because your work sounds great and I can see that you're very passionate about it.
I am.
What continues to inspire and motivate you to continue the work that you're doing and, just in general, continue this line of work?
I'm lucky that my career is also my passion. Not many people get the opportunity, and I'm well aware that I like what I do. I plan to do it until I die because I know I just love what I do. What continues me to do it because I know I can help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There is an ability for me to grow in regards to financially and like what I want to do and how I want to give back in my own way and how I want to help, even like when it comes to like maybe like taking on a newer therapist and kind of helping them
Mm-hmm.
train them and to do that because I feel like there's just like how not everyone's good at their job. Same thing with therapists. Not everyone's a good teacher and everyone's a good doctor. So there's a lot of bad therapists out there. And I had my fair share of them as myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. And earlier you were talking about your own experiences with finding a therapist and
Yeah.
going through therapy in general.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like, and what kind of takeaways um, do you mind or do you not mind sharing from your therapy experiences that kind of have stuck with you?
Yeah, that's an interesting journey. I'd say my first therapy experience was actually from a therapist, but from my mentor. When I was in
Mm,
community college at Orange Coast College, actually, I was just kind of like, 18, wasn't like not the best student, just kind of like going on life, not really having any direction. I fell asleep in one of my professor's class. It was communications class. And I was like, afterwards, like, oh, I'm sorry, like I must have been tired. I fell asleep in class. And she flat out said, you're not tired, you're depressed. I've never had someone ever tell me that. And I was
mm,
shocked. I was like, no, I'm not. And I went to her office and I argued with her. And I did it again every single day during her office hours for like a whole year. I would go every morning just to argue with her or discuss with her. And I will say that I attribute who I am today. And in
mm-hmm,
fact, I'm pretty sure I would have already killed myself. It wasn't for her.
mm-hmm,
Because I felt like she was the first person who I felt like saw me. And I want to make sure that my clients, I want my clients feel the same way. I want them to feel like someone sees them, not just the
mm-hmm,
facade they put over that, but sees past that, and someone who's willing to call them out, put and say, no, it's because of this is what's going on.
mm-hmm,
Because that one teacher said, you're not tired, you're depressed, and it shook me to my core. Because I'm pretty sure growing up my life, people did see me, people did try to support me, but I didn't feel like they did. I didn't feel like they actually saw me. She was the first person I felt like saw me. So I'm not discrediting all the support I've had from other people, but it was something different about it where I felt just seen. And I think a lot of times we don't feel seen.
mm-hmm,
We get overwhelmed by family, culture, tradition, expectations, what it means to be these things, labels, and we start to identify or make our like just clinging on to these things because we feel like it gives us worth, not realizing that it's just one layer of who we are.
Yeah, that's so powerful. It's, you know, a lot of time people just see that outer layer, but you know, without really peeling it, you can't really see who that person is.
Yeah, you're not just it's just a label. It's an aspect of who you are, but it's not who you
Hmm.
are. We'll be clinging onto the idea of it because we want what everybody else wants. We want acceptance. We want community. We want love, friendship. We want all those things.
Hmm.
It can be sometimes scarier to be us in a certain way and fear that rejection.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, yeah. But that's how I got started. That's, I guess, kind of ties into it was rough finding a therapist, especially when I couldn't find one where maybe accepted insurance or that was close by. Or
Hmm.
when I was going through therapy, I started like 24 and I'm 33 now. It's like 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. For me, I didn't care about the race. That didn't matter to me. I didn't know it, like I didn't know anything. I just started
Hmm.
working different sessions and I started to figure out, okay, is this good? Is it not good? Did I like the vibe? Until I found one where I was like, I'm gonna give her a chance.
Hmm.
Ever since. Have not moved on. I like who I have.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Feel like for some other people, it may take a couple different therapists to really find that person that they vibe with.
Yeah, it took me 3 or 4 therapists going through. Each time it's always been one session. I'm like, no, no, no. Until I found the one I currently have, and I liked the relationship we built, and we're also more colleagues because like I'm a
Hmm.
therapist. But it's the funny thing is every time I go to therapy, she's just like, she'll tell me something. I go, I know what you're doing. She's like, come on, like I know this game. She's like, and I'm just like, God damn it. Yeah, you're right. Da 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 da.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier that, you know, you're in your own box, even though you can help other people to see outside of that box. Sometimes when it comes to ourselves, it's a little harder to do that. One thing that we've noticed that continues to be a barrier is kind of that stigma associated around needing mental health help and
Yes.
support from others, or just the idea of mental health in general. Um, could you share, maybe briefly, why you think your work specifically in that niche area is important and just therapy overall is important?
It's not for everyone. It's another way to help someone. Some people can go through it themselves. Some people work through
Hmm.
all their problems through the gym. They get a lot of insight. Some people meditate. Some people do prayer. It's just one way of doing it. Because where
Hmm.
I what I was trained in, I've learned over time is like how to utilize certain ways and techniques to help you kind of like think outside the box, change up the routine, sort of thing, challenge certain notions maybe you have about yourself or ideas, and to help you let go of that. That's the beauty of therapy. It's not just one way of doing it. There's multiple ways.
Hmm.
It just might not work for everyone. Maybe, like I said, just like courage doesn't exist without fear, growth doesn't exist without discomfort. If the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, what could hurt? Okay, you're afraid. That's okay to be afraid. But what else do you have to lose?
Hmm.
If you nothing has been working so far and you are afraid, all I would recommend is just one step at a time then.
Hmm.
Just do instead of like calling for a therapist, just look up therapy, different techniques, ask friends for their opinions of therapy, build something, and ask a lot of questions. And it's not just about them picking me, it's also me picking them. If I don't feel like I'm a good
Hmm.
fit for someone, I'll be like, this might be the best fit. I won't just take anyone just because. I've turned down people who are willing to pay my full fee and but it just wasn't a good fit.
Hmm.
What they wanted to work on, maybe personality or style, was not a good fit for them. And that's okay. You're human. You're afraid? Good. That means you can grow. stuff. By doing something you're afraid of, it's challenging and still doing it, you're afraid. I'm afraid of heights. I'm definitely afraid of heights. But my whole life, I did construction with my dad. So I had to climb up like 4 flights of stairs.
Oh, wow.
And I'm scared the whole time and I'm still doing it. Am I still afraid of heights? Absolutely. Am I still afraid of roller coasters? Absolutely. Do I still go them? Absolutely. Do I go to Six Flags? Hell no. But the thing is, I can still be afraid of something, but do it.
Mm-hmm.
It just means I'm being courageous. It's not that I conquered the fear and then I'm not afraid of it. No, I'm still afraid of heights to this day. But I'm willing to lean into it. This way, the beauty of therapy, and I said this quote before when you guys asked for a quote, go to therapy. We want your baggage. It's true. Okay, give me your baggage. Give me your trash. Unload on me. I'm asking for it. Instead of feeling bad unloading on your friends, you can unload on me.
You know, that kind of stuff. So I do think it is powerful just to let people know sometimes it feels uncomfortable, but maybe you don't see it as uncomfortable. You see it as being courageous, and it's actually a good thing.
And it is uncomfortable, but I mean, when you first learned to swim, was it comfortable? No, you almost drowned. Was it fun? No, but eventually over time, you got better at it and better,
Hmm.
and it became comfortable. And the human brain is very powerful, it's very strong. There are ways for us to adapt. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the first, but the beauty of it is that you can always overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
You're a different person yesterday than you were today. You, me, anybody else, everybody else. We have a lot of people have this experience or history of like rejection or people not understanding or dismissing them. I'm not saying therapists don't do that. I mean, we're all human, sort of thing, but you're paying
Mm-hmm.
to do that. It is my job. Like I would go to a dentist or a doctor for a very specific reason, right? I'm paying them for that. I don't go to a physical therapist and go, I'm so sorry you're doing this. Like I feel bad that you're helping me. Like, no, help fix my arm. It hurts.
Tell me if I have cavities. Clean my teeth for me. I'm paying you to
Like,
do this.
yeah. It's gonna hurt. I know. That's why I'm here. I hate it, but I'm gonna be here because I had to get rid of the cavity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Because I think a lot of people don't think of it in this way, and they're just like, "Oh, why do I need therapy? Like, I can go talk to my friends, or it will eventually pass." But this kind of comparison, I really do think that it helps to kind of contextualize. Oh, it's just like all your other needs.
It is. And it's like getting a massage. I have clients who technically don't need therapy anymore. Like they're fine. They don't need me in the sense of like they have, but they like to come back because it's like a check-in or like, what are they doing? And I'll make sure we're on their path. And I tell them like, as long as they're still benefiting it, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Some people come for 6 months or maybe a year, solve a problem, they're done. Some people come on and off depending on what happens to them. And some people, they stay with me because it's nice having a place to go and check and just kind of like a safety net. Hey, am I
Mm-hmm.
doing this right? Like I did this, I go and I'd be like, okay, you did fine here, but what about these things? And just be mindful of this. And they go, okay, good. It's nice to have someone kind of like have your back on your side,
Mm-hmm.
but it really depends. Like I also do trauma work. So let's say someone wants to work through something and I'm trained in certain trauma modalities. So what is it? There's different strokes for different folks, different therapists for different needs. And there's always a therapist for something. And again, you don't always need to see a therapist. Some people use coaches, some people learn through other ways. It's just one way of doing it.
Mm-hmm. What is some advice that you may have for someone who's wanting to explore their mental health, whether it is learning about certain topics, going to therapy, finding alternative resources, or even just pursuing a career in the mental health field?
Oh, that's a loaded question. That's hard to say. I think everyone is so different as the reasons why. I don't think one size fits all, so to speak. There's no one real reason. It's just the only advice I would give to anyone is ask a question.
Mhm.
Ask yourself a question. Keep asking questions. It'll keep taking, every time you ask a question, it'll take you somewhere. You hear something, like say an influencer, someone says something on TikTok or YouTube, and you go, "Oh, what is that? That's kind of good. What does that mean? What is this?" They're talking about a label or identity or an aspect. You go, "What does that mean?" type on the internet. The internet is an amazing resource for anything. And the more you ask questions, the more inquisitive you can become. And it can lead you kind of figuring things out. And sometimes you can't rely on like what people say, but you can kind of internalize like, okay, what does that mean to me? And just because it's online doesn't mean it's always true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so take everything with a grain of salt and just keep asking questions. When I was a kid, I asked a lot of questions and no one gave me answers. You know, being Asian American, no one teaches you the difference between angry, frustration, grief, sadness, and all that stuff. Everything I knew was just sadness. Anything that was resembled sadness just became sadness. Everything, instead of being anger or frustration, it just became anger. I didn't know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't taught the difference. Not too far my parents, you know, but just that we didn't. It's the 90s. It was different. But they feel similar, but it doesn't mean they're the same.
Mm-hmm.
Humans like to generalize. That's just how our brain, we like to make generalizations. It's how we help compartmentalize and stuff, but it could be a benefit. It also can be a detriment to us. The reasons you're feeling that way, or why you're feeling this way, is it factual?
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example for myself. You know, with ADHD, if you didn't know this, if you don't like get help with ADHD after age 24, there's a high chance of comorbidity, and instead of like with depression and anxiety. So I have a really bad ADHD, but I also have depression and anxiety because of that. I had a really bad depressive episode. Couldn't help it. Chemical process. It is what it is. And I was saying, I was like, I'm a horrible person. I'm not a good therapist. I was saying all these negative things about myself.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was like, that's bullshit. I'm like, why aren't you validating my feelings? She goes, I'm validating it. You're sad. I'm validating that. But the reasons why you're sad, why do you think you're a bad therapist? Or why do you think you're a horrible person? I said, well, these reasons. She goes, is that factual? No, it wasn't. It was an opinion, or it was because I thought, well, this defined me or made me a bad person. But is it tangible? Is it fact? This makes you a bad person? No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't care about these aspects. That doesn't make you a bad person. She was like, you just have ADHD, so you have special. You only have special interests, so you care less about the rest. That doesn't make you bad. It just makes you ADHD. So I don't know if people. I feel like a lot of people could resonate with that, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
pure logic, but more of, is it true? Or do you feel if feeling is true, is not actually it being true? Believing it is true does not make it true. If you feel you are a bad person because of these things, that's one thing. But if you say, I am a bad person because of these things, that is not fact. So to differentiate between those two can be very powerful. What you say shapes your reality.
Uh-huh. Like, when you're reading a textbook and you're processing the words, but you're not really understanding them. So I think those really help. And I'm certain that our community and the audience will find it very helpful to hear your perspective as well.
I hope so.